All right, welcome to The Explainer. And let's be real, you can forget everything you've seen in Hollywood spy thrillers. Today, we're going to crack open the real-world playbook of a former CIA officer. And I mean the real stuff. We're going to distill the powerful psychological skills they use to get ahead and show you exactly how you can use them in your own life. All right, so here's the game plan. First, we're going to tear down the whole James Bond myth. Then, we'll get into the pretty surprising mindset the CIA looks for. After that, we'll break down their secret psychological toolkit. I'm talking a step-by-step process for influence. And finally, and this is the best part, we'll show you how to take all these secrets and use them to your advantage. Okay, first up, let's get our terms straight, because in the world of espionage, believe me, words matter. A lot. So, what makes a real spy? Well, it's definitely not about the fancy cars and shaken martinis. It's about a professional distinction that, once you understand it, completely changes how you see the game. See, the person you think of as the spy, they're almost never the one actually stealing the secrets. Okay, so here it is, the key difference. The person we call a spy, someone like former CIA officer Andrew Bustamante, is actually an intelligence officer. Think of them as a handler. Their whole job is to recruit and manage assets. These are the foreigners who have to access, the ones who can actually get their hands on the secrets. So the officer isn't sneaking around stealing files. The asset is the one providing the intel. So that begs the question, right? What kind of person does the CIA look for to become one of these elite officers? And the answer? It goes way deeper than just having a fancy degree or a perfect record. Yeah, you read that right. And get this, the CIA is actually pretty open about it. They're actively looking for a very specific psychological profile, one that's been shaped by real-life experience, which makes them uniquely suited for a world built on secrets and lies. One of the key traits they hunt for is something called moral flexibility. Now, this doesn't mean being immoral. It's about being pragmatic. It's the ability to look at an action and not see it as good or bad, but as useful or not useful for the mission. So for example, lying to a target to build trust, that's not a moral failure. It's just a necessary tool to get the job done. And this is where it gets really fascinating. The agency sees this clear connection between childhood trauma and high performance. See, if you grow up in an environment where you can't trust people, you get really comfortable with secrecy, you learn how to compartmentalize. And the CIA knows exactly how to spot these traits and find people who will become intensely loyal and incredibly effective operators in the field. And Andrew Bustamante's journey is a perfect example of this. You can see his path was all about structured success. I mean, Air Force Academy, then controlling the launch keys for nuclear missiles. He was a guy who followed the rules. But that moment he decided to break away from that path, to apply for the Peace Corps. Well, that's what put his unique profile right on the CIA's radar. Right place, right time, right kind of messed up. Okay, so this is where we get into the really good stuff, the core skills. These are the mental models the CIA drills into its officers, the frameworks that separate a trained mind from, well, pretty much everyone else. So one of the very first lessons of the CIA is to learn to distrust your perception. That's your gut feeling, right? Your emotional reaction. And why should you distrust it? Because it's based on your own subjective feelings. And honestly, it's often wrong. So instead, they train officers to cultivate perspective, that's the objective view, by gathering a bunch of different data points before ever making a call. They also teach you how to be an effective liar. And here's why that's so smart. By learning the mechanics of a good lie, you get really, really good at spotting one. And it has nothing to do with whether someone's looking you in the eye. It's about subtle things, like mirroring your target's body language to build trust without them even knowing it. It's about asking questions to control the flow of information while you give away nothing. And critically, it's about establishing a baseline, what's someone's normal behavior, so you can immediately spot when something is off. Now, at the heart of all of this, both manipulation and motivation, is something called the RICE framework. It's a simple acronym that breaks down the 4 core drivers of pretty much all human behavior: reward, ideology, coercion, and ego. If you want to influence somebody, you got to know which of these buttons to push. But here's the thing, these motivations are absolutely not equal. You know, in the movies, it's always about coercion, the blackmail, the threats. But in the real world, that's actually the weakest and least reliable way to motivate someone. The most powerful, the most lasting way to influence a person is to appeal to their ideology, their core beliefs about family, their country, or just what's right and wrong. So the whole point for an intelligence officer is to peel back these layers of a person's identity. See, every single person has a public life, what we show the world. Then there's the private life, for close friends and family. But then there's the secret life, the stuff we tell no one. And that's where the real secrets and the real leverage are hiding. Okay, so how do they take all these psychological tools and actually put them into action? Well, let's look at the systematic process they use to turn a total stranger into an intelligence asset. And let's be crystal clear here. This process is espionage, which is, by definition, the act of stealing secrets. And it is illegal in every single country on the planet. So the framework they use is called SAD-RAT. Yeah, I know. It's a 6-step cycle that guides an officer from beginning to end. Spot, assess, develop, recruit, handle, and terminate. Let me break that down. You spot a potential target, you assess if they're actually valuable, you develop trust with them, you recruit them to your cause, you handle that ongoing relationship, and then finally, you terminate it when it's not useful anymore. And honestly, just like in sales or business, that second step, assess, is the absolute game changer. So many people skip this. But the CIA knows that finding the right asset is way more valuable than just finding any asset. They're looking for somebody who's going to be a reliable, high-value, productive source over the long haul. So you might be thinking, okay, this is cool, but how does it apply to me? I'm not trying to steal state secrets. Well, like we just saw with that assess phase, these skills are totally transferable from the world of spying straight into the world of business, and really any part of your life. And look, the proof is right there in the numbers. When Andrew Bustamone applied this exact SAD-RAT process to his own company's sales and marketing, he got 300% growth, year after year, for 3 years straight. I mean, think about it. Spotting a potential client, assessing if they're a good fit, developing that relationship before you even try to sell them something, it turns sales from a guessing game into a predictable science. So here's the real takeaway. The biggest difference between someone who's trained and someone who's untrained isn't some kind of superpower. It's just awareness. The untrained person is trapped by their emotions. They act on their gut feelings, their perception. The trained person is aware that there are other options. They know how to step back, get perspective, and use a framework like RICE to figure out what's really driving the person across the table. And the thing is, now you have that awareness too. And that right there is the ultimate secret weapon. Human behavior, it's not random. It's predictable. Whether you're in a negotiation for a raise, trying to understand your kid, or closing a big deal, people are always driven by reward, ideology, coercion, or ego. Once you understand the systems that govern how people tick, you get a massive advantage. You're not just reacting to life anymore, you're strategically navigating it. So you now know the difference between just feeling something, perception, and actually seeing it clearly, perspective. You get how powerful frameworks like RICE and SAD-RAT can be. This knowledge gives you a real edge in a world where, frankly, most people are pretty predictable. So the only question left is, what are you going to do with it?